In this video, we're going to be talking about what surface details you need to model. We're going to talk about a level of detail. I've made a plan for this, showing you the areas of detail that are required depending on how close we are to the camera. We'll talk about the model render resolution and the impact of this resolution for the details we need to make. We'll then look at surface details, what to model and what to leave for displacement. So in visual effects, models are often graded into different levels of detail in order to determine how much work is required. You will have typically level of detail A, B, C and D if it's on a large project. So we're going to be using something like this for our project as well to determine the detail to add. So at a level of detail A, we're going to be seeing the model quite close to camera like this. And then a level of detail B, if we come out a little bit here now, about this kind of detail, this kind of level here, that could be a level of detail B where you'll be seeing it a bit further away, and you never come closer than that. Level of detail C, we're going out a bit more here, and it's starting to become harder to pick out any kind of minor sort of surface details. And then lastly, level of detail D could be at this level here. So the output resolution for this project is going to be HD, so 1920 by 1080. Those of you who have a 4K monitor, if you want to view how the pixels are going to be viewed as is, you would need to click View 200%. Because I have a HD monitor, and I expect most of you are going to have HD or less, I use View 100% or Control 1 on the keyboard. That allows me to see a representation of the pixels at 1:1. If we go in further, you start to see that the pixels become pixelated and it's not representing the pixels properly. Control 1 on the keyboard, View 100%. That gives you an exact idea, and you're safe in the knowledge that this is going to be how your viewers who are going to consume the content that we're making are going to be seeing the model resolution at. So I've made a bit of a plan here showing the levels of detail that we're going to be working at. So nothing that we're going to be modeling is going to be level of detail A. So we don't need to go crazy with our resolution modeling. So this area here would fall under level of detail B, and the kind of details that we're going to be picking up will be the kind of things that are going to be sticking out, that we're going to be modeling things that are going to be sticking out, and we'll go in a bit more detail about this soon. Beyond here, this is level of detail C here, and so there's less detail required for this, and this is also going to be made as a matte painting. We're going to be projecting the matte painting onto some geometry. The kinds of details that you might model could be what you see here. You might have a hole in there. These would not be modeled as holes. They would be handled in the matte painting, or if it was an asset model, then it would be handled in displacement. If we go to the level of detail D here, this is going to be really low resolution basic geometry going back there. So the surface detail that we're going to model, we need to keep in mind what will be handled by displacement and what needs to be modeled. I've set up the width and height here, 1920 by 1080, and I've just made a small subsection of the building that I'm going to show you. So this is without displacement, and if I'm just going to turn on the displacement now. So I've just turned on the displacement. If I click the 1:1 button, that says the same thing as showing us the pixels at a 1:1 resolution. We can, I'm now able to understand what this is going to look like. That's the detail that can be provided by the displacement there. Displacement is defining areas of detail which are going to be pushed out, and such as this area is being pushed out, and areas of detail which are being pushed in. If those of you who are new to it, it might be worth having a read through this, and you can do that by looking up the doing a search for displacement, Arnold displacement documentation, and you'll be able to get there and read a bit more about that. But all that we need to keep in mind is that we're not going to be modeling these really fine details. We're going to be leaving that for displacement, and it's really appropriate for a shot like this because we're never going to be getting close to our object. It's always going to be seen at this kind of resolution, and so there's no need to go and really modeling super fine details. I thought it might be helpful to complete our understanding of the level of detail A, B, C, D, just to talk a bit about level of detail A first. Now, a level of detail A model is going to be something which appears fairly close to full screen, and this is a good example here. So imagine if this was our 3D asset that we needed to model here, and it was going to be seen at this kind of resolution. Most of the models here would need to be most of what you see here would need to be modeled. Let's just do a bit of a drawing on top of this here. So these sections here, this would be modeled as a separate piece of geometry. These kind of details here, you would probably just have the plane of the model like that, and the rest of it would be handled as displacement. So again, looking here, you would have this as a piece of as a plane there, that as well. And then these finer details would still be handled as displacement. Again, just going here, this would be separate pieces of geometry. And at this kind of resolution, you would be likely to have some of this modeled, and then you may be using doing some final sculpting in something like ZBrush, for example. But a lot of these details could easily be made from the displacement color in Mari as well. But anyway, this model would be where you really would be modeling the fine details. These bits here would probably be handled as displacement. In the texture map. Likewise, this kind of stuff here would be texture. And when I say texture, I mean it could either be handled in Mari, Photoshop, or in ZBrush. This sections here would be modeled as planes. So let's go into let's focus now on the level of detail B that we're going to be working at. I've chosen this image here because it represents the resolution, the sort of maximum resolution that we would see this front section of the model at. So this facade here, from here to here, we're never going to see it at a higher resolution than this. And one way that you can do this would be to take this, copy it into where we're working. So if I just copy this background here, if I paste this in, you can see that is almost, like I say, almost double. We're seeing it now, almost double the resolution that it would be seen at there. So if that's at 50% there. So, I mean, maybe around kind of 60% is about the 60 to 70% is about the resolution of that. So this is quite helpful here, this image, just to give you an idea of the kind of things that we're going to model. So I'm just going to draw some things over the top here. So what details would need to be modeled? Classically, these would need to be modeled as separate pieces of geometry here. You can see they clearly cast a shadow as well. So anything that casts a clear shadow is going to be something that we would want to model for a level of detail B. You can see there's a clear shadow there, so I think that this would be a good thing to model as a separate plane. Likewise here. These sections down here, this could be handled as separate pieces of geometry. These little bits here, you can see their shadows being cast. And let's just talk about a few other things. So these metal kind of panels which are sticking out, metal bars which are sticking out, they would need to be modeled. Of course, this area here would need to be modeled. Likewise, the same here. Now, what does not need to be modeled? So these, okay, yes, you can see that this is casting a little bit of a shadow. So there's a bit of a grey area here with something like this. I would say, as we're going to be seeing this at this kind of resolution here, that detail there should just be really displacement. So these kind of details here will be handled as displacement. Anything like this could be handled as displacement, and some of it you may choose to not even do. You may not even put it in the texture or in the model. Certainly these sections here would be handled as displacement. Is there anything else that could be displacement? Basically the kind of really fine details that could be just painted in with a texture map. I would say these should be modeled. Likewise these here. And these details here I think could be put as displacement. So this could be put as displacement. The details to model at our level of detail C area here. So if looking here, this could be modeled, likewise this as well. These small holes here, I mean, as it's going to be for a matte painting, a lot of the details are actually going to be handled in the texture. But if it was going to be an asset, then you would probably have, well, actually for the matte painting, you would want to have this sticking out. If I was to just draw that, we wouldn't want it to be anything more than just simply something which sticks out with a hole in it there. Certainly these sections here, they would be displacement. These kind of details here would need to be modeled. Basically just any major obvious details would need to be modeled. These planes like that. Something like this like where you have this kind of slight divot there, that could be put as a model. But I think as this is going to be a matte painting, we'll probably just literally just paint that over the top of the model, and you won't be able to notice that there. So just basically just picking out the main features of the model for the level of detail C, and then for the level of detail D, so these power stations, we just need to see the basic outline of the model, and we wouldn't be doing any fine details at all, just the basic building blocks so that you can see the shape of it. So our level of detail B area, that needs to be the area which has the most detail, and here you can see some examples of the kinds of details that you might add in this level of detail B area. Just having a look here, this is what this might end up looking like. You can see like the divots here that I've pushed in and out, pockets of interest, details. I've got those like these metal bars. I've kind of sort of creatively put them there, and I have some of them sticking out here. I've made an additional set dressing, which we're going to talk about later on. You can see that I've added a bit of damage in there, a bit of interest, broken up this details here. And as we come up here to the level of detail C area, there's much less detail required here, and most of that detail is actually going to come from the matte painting. And beyond that, any geometry that's modeled beyond that's our level of detail D area, and there's very little detail required there whatsoever. So to summarize for this video, we've primarily talked about what modeling you need to do. What is the level of detail you need to do that modeling at? And I've defined it into 3 areas. So we have our front area here, which is level of detail B. Any modeling done in this area here needs to be of the most higher res detail, and you want to be adding in pockets of interest, and I'll be giving feedback about that as well. This detail back here, as we go further away, less detail is required, and it can either be handled by displacement, or in our case it'll be handled by the matte painting. And then geometry, which is seen in the far distance, is the lowest level of detail required. Okay, thank you.